What's up, guys? This is the Power Mushroom coming to you with a brand new video. So, I mean, hey, it's Final Fantasy week is here finally, and I mean, me, Nom, Spoony, Bard, we're all doing this in kind of like a celebration for the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy. Yes, it's been 30 years. It's been 30 long years. Final Fantasy has been around. It's been around longer than I have. Like, I think when Final Fantasy was coming out, my parents were probably barely thinking about me. Like, oh yeah, maybe we'll have a son eventually, and he'll do a YouTube channel, and he'll live to just play Final Fantasy games. I'm pretty sure that's how it went, guys. But anyways, yeah, so Final Fantasy games, 30 years of Final Fantasy. See, oh my god. It's so long. There's not a lot of games can like just live or be, they haven't been around for that long. I mean, all the other ones that have been around for a while have been like Super Mario Brothers. You have the F-Zero series. You know, anything Nintendo related, they've been around. But I mean, Final Fantasy is just one of those games that just really, with each installment, it does something new, and it keeps it fresh. It keeps the gameplay fresh. There are some games that they've kind of gone under the radar, and not a lot of people have played them, and it sucks. But I mean, they're all good games. When it comes to Final Fantasy, I don't think there's no really, when you're introduced to the series, there's really not a bad one that you can play when you kind of consider like, oh yeah, for the time period, this is pretty good or something. When you can take that into consideration, there really isn't a bad Final Fantasy main installment, unless you're talking about the original Final Fantasy 14. Whoa. But anyways, yeah, so, I mean, this is kind of just a video of me introducing Final Fantasy Week, and also, for the first video, this one, by the title of it, you already know what I'm going to be talking about. My favorite Final Fantasy game. And let me just tell you guys that for Final Fantasy, it's one of my favorite game series of all time. Like, I can't pick one. Of all the Final Fantasy games, like, each one is my favorite one. I can't. But if I had to, I would pick one. But I'm going to tell you guys in a little bit. But I'm going to kind of go through some of my favorite Final Fantasy games. And, well, granted, this one's old. This one's old as heck. But every time someone asks me, like, hey, like, did you play Final Fantasy? The first one is, yeah, I did. I played it. I played the original one. My very first version of this one, though, I did not play this was not my first version of Final Fantasy that I played. My first one was actually Origins on the PlayStation. I have it right here. Final Fantasy Origins. This is the first version I played. And when I played this one, I played this one after Final Fantasy 7. And you know, so when I heard that they were doing like the remakes, or when I saw it at the store, I immediately jumped on it. And yeah, I enjoyed both of them a lot. And then I ended up playing the ones for the Game Boy. They had I think it was Dawn of Souls for the Game Boy or something. Then eventually they remade it for the PSP with like it was better graphics. I think a couple new dungeons and stuff. And in my opinion, I think that's the best version to play. If you're gonna play one, it's gonna be the PSP version or the mobile version. It's the iOS version. So those are really good versions to play a Final Fantasy, their first and second one. More specifically, I do like the first one better than the second one a little bit. The second one, it did build upon like the game, but I mean, back then sequels were really they were really weird. Sequels were really different from other games. Like Final Fantasy 2, it had it to where like you could be a mage or a warrior. It was one of those things where like you had to, the more time you spent doing certain attacks, the more you'd kind of level up that character in that specific, what do you call it? That specific trait or art, whatever they're doing. So like if I wanted to be a warrior, I'd keep on doing melee attacks, or if I wanted more defense up, I'd keep on getting hit. It's kind of what Skyrim did. That's what happened. So hey, this was kind of the first ones to do that. I think that, you know, where you could kind of really build up your characters the way you wanted them to. And so, I mean, though Final Fantasy 1, it just holds a special place in my heart. Not to mention, when I reach the end, there is a plot twist in this old game. So, I mean, it's not a huge plot twist, but I mean, like when I was younger and I played it, I was just like, oh, dang, I did not see that coming, you know? So, I mean, hey, it's really enjoyable. I think it's a pretty good game, in my opinion. I really do enjoy the first one. This next one, I have it on the PS3, PS4. I have every version of this one. That is Final Fantasy X. This one I got introduced very oddly. Like, I saw it at the stores. My aunt played it and everything. I saw her play it, and you know, it looked really cool. But I didn't buy it myself. And I went to school, and I remember this kid. His name was Malik. Malik, if you see this, and it's me, I still have your copy of Final Fantasy X for PS2. For some reason, if he sees this, but yeah, he's like, oh, he comes to school and he's like, dude, I just beat this awesome game. It's Final Fantasy X, and I was looking at him like, dude, I've never played Final Fantasy X. I want to try it. And he was like, oh, you know what? I'll let you borrow it. So next day, he comes back. He comes to school. He hands me the game, and he's like, here you go. You can borrow it. Just play it and like give it back to me whenever you beat it. So, sure enough, I take the game home. I play it. Let me tell you, this game. I think my first playthrough through Final Fantasy X, I spent like maybe 9 hours playing the game. It was a long time. So I kept on playing it and playing it, and yeah, it was an amazing game. I loved Final Fantasy X. That's probably like, this is my second favorite Final Fantasy. So I keep playing it, and sure enough, I mean, I stick with it. I never give it back. And then I moved schools, and I never saw that kid again. Never saw Malik again. So Malik, if you see this, I still have your copy. I legit still have the original copy that I got from him. So yeah, and I did end up beating it. Then when I heard that they were remastering it and everything, of course I jumped on that, and then I played it again. Then I got it for the PlayStation 4, and I beat it on there. It's just, Final Fantasy X is probably one of my favorites in the series. That laughing scene, though, I'm gonna just tell you guys, there's a laughing scene in Final Fantasy X. Never in my life have I ever run up to the TV and just mute the TV. I've never done that as fast as I did in this game, because it was just so awkward. It was so embarrassing. It's one of those things like where you just can't believe that. Like, you would think, you put yourself in your family's shoes, and when they hear weird laughing, you kind of think to yourself like, that, man, that's so weird. It's so cringy, and that, like, I just ran up to the thing, I muted that thing, and I was just like, oh man, I get shivers thinking about that. But I can't stand that scene. I understand in the story it makes sense for what's going on between Tidus and Yuna, but it just, trust me, back then I couldn't stand it. All right. Now, I might as well get down to my favorite Final Fantasy. My favorite Final Fantasy, guys. People are going to call me, like, too mainstream or anything. And I mean, it's my favorite Final Fantasy probably because it's the first one I played. This is the first one I played. I saw my aunt play this. I saw a bunch of people play this in my family. And it looks so good. And when I got my own copy and I got my PlayStation and I played the game, it was everything I expected it to be. It was amazing. It was groundbreaking for me. Like, the storytelling and everything between the characters, the way they developed and everything. It was really good. And that's not to say that other Final Fantasies don't have great stories. Like, 6 was awesome. 6 was amazing. Final Fantasy 8, 9, they were all great. But my favorite Final Fantasy of all time has to be Final Fantasy Crisis Core. If you're talking like just main titles and not spin-offs, then Final Fantasy 7. But Crisis Core is my favorite. And like, I know that I was kind of leading you guys towards Final Fantasy 7. That is my favorite Final Fantasy 7. Like, is my favorite main installment. But my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time is Crisis Core. I've played through this game so many times, and let me just I'll talk about Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy 7, a little bit. I do enjoy that game. The game, I think nothing can top it in forms of like the character development, just the way the characters spoke to each other and everything. But it's really, what happened there was, like, I played it so much that, like, I know like the back of my hand. So it's just like, oh man, it's really good. And it got to the point where I wanted to play as part of Cloud's past, and I just never could that happen until I walked into a Target. I'll never forget. I just bought my PSP. I walked into a Target and I saw Crisis Core. I never heard of an announcement or anything. I just looked at it and I'm like, maybe this is a different version of Final Fantasy VII. Immediately when I started the game, and I noticed I was playing as a different character, Zack. Also by the back of the cover, I saw Zack, Cloud, and this other guy. I was like, who's that guy? And when I saw that, when I saw that opening scene, I saw that I was playing as Zack, I was thinking, this is an origin story. And as I played through the game, everything that happened in Final Fantasy VII that I remember from like the PlayStation version, it was all there. Everything was in real time. Everything was cutscenes. There was voice acting. Everything was there, and it was exactly how I remembered it. And that's why this game, like, it topped Final Fantasy just by a little bit. Final Fantasy VII, just by a little bit. because of its characters and the way they developed and how I got to learn more about the characters, and I got to learn what it was, more of those things where I learned what actually happened. I was there, you know. In Final Fantasy VII, you had a lot of flashbacks, and it was kind of like Cloud trying to find himself and everything. And this one, it's kind of like, hey, this is exactly what happened. All those flashbacks, we're gonna put that story together, and we're gonna make it's all gonna make sense, and it all comes just so well together, mixed with Fantasy VII. And you know what? I think that these two games, you can't play them without playing the other. You have to play them together. This is one of those things that Final Fantasy VII has such a big universe and so much lore. I think that these games have to be played back to back. So first this one and then this one, because just this game gets these two games right here. They're super emotional. Specifically the ending for this one, and then how this one ends up going. It's just one of those games that you kind of look at and you can't help but feel for these characters and what they've gone through and everything. And really, I just can't compare any other Final Fantasy, you know, to this one. I know for everyone, your Final Fantasy games are going to be different, but for me, it has to be 7. Not to mention Sephiroth. I think he has one of the best themes of all time. I remember fighting him when I was a kid. Like when I entered that last battle, it was just like you felt like your heart pumping. You're just like, oh man, this is it. This is that last battle. I felt like I was in a soap opera or something, or I was playing Star Wars. And it just felt so good. Hey, I mean, that to me, that's what it was. It was so good, and it took me by surprise on what happened in the storylines, the plot twist, and all that stuff. It's just, there are things that happen in this game that you just don't see coming. And for me, I was really surprised when it first happened. Not to mention, also Crisis Core is my favorite soundtrack of the series, because it's just the use of guitar. It's my instrument and everything. It fits so well for me, and especially The Price of Freedom, or I think it was Under the Apple Tree, was one of the other songs, and The Burdened. I played those 3 songs at a concert. I was opening for somebody in high school, and those are the 3 songs I picked for a concert. It was like, I think it was in the House of Blues in Las Vegas, and hey, for me, those were like the songs that I could really feel. And it had, like I said, it has one of the best soundtracks in my opinion in the Final Fantasy series. They all have great soundtracks, but for me, these are my favorite games. And hey, I just wanted to let you guys know that Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game in the entire series. Both of these, I really can't top them. Like this one, just a little bit more above this one, but really they're about the same. So I'm really looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Hopefully, Square Enix, you do justice to that game, because I mean, it's just something that I'm pretty sure a lot of us, it's right here, you know? It's a part of us. It's such a great game. But yeah, that's my favorite Final Fantasy. I told you guys some of my favorite Final Fantasies, you know. Like I said, I can't really pick them, especially when they take a lot of time to invest hours. And really, almost any Final Fantasy is good. If you ask me, like, where should I start in Final Fantasy games, I would say 10. But I'll get into that in like a later video. Maybe later on in Final Fantasy Week. But hey, anyways, that is my favorite Final Fantasy game, or 2 Final Fantasy games. What are yours? Like, I want to know your thoughts. Spoony Bard and Nom should be uploading a video soon about this. This is Final Fantasy Week, so every day, come back to this channel. You're going to be having a Final Fantasy video every single day till Friday. And probably we're going to have more later, obviously, but this will be known as Final Fantasy Week every year. Every year, we're going to take time to just set a week aside and just talk about Final Fantasy. Because really, for the Spoonie and for Namdi and me, it's one of our favorite game franchises of all time. And literally, I think that kind of sparked the friendship. Because when we started talking to each other, we really started talking about Final Fantasy a lot. And hey, I mean, we've had a lot of great conversations about it. But anyways, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember, let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite Final Fantasy and why? And hey, do a video response if you want to. Join in on Final Fantasy Week. Message us, you know, something on Twitter. It's all there for you guys. We're open to conversations. We need more people to stream with. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, upvote if you're watching on Vidme. And as always, remember, when you guys are gaming, power up.